guys, it's Nukage, and I have a new track and I'm working on, and I have this cool sound. It's a Reese bass. I made it massive, and I actually created a whole bunch of other sounds using the same sound kind of as a bass. So here is what I'm going to do. I will play the sound in context, and then I'll show you how to make it. Alright, so this is a massive bass. Here is massive. First I'm gonna do is turn off all the effects on it, because there's some external effects I'll show you later after I show you the patch. And then basically what I'm gonna do is duplicate this and mute the other one so that we can kind of start fresh on a separate instance of massive. Just this one to the left. So I'll do file new sound. So there you go. That's our sound. And first thing I want to do is go over to envelope. Actually, that's already good. Go over to voicing. Turn it on monitor and look at a trailer. That'll give us that bending ability, and I'm going to go ahead and change the units into 2 and turn these on and bring them out right there. So that already gives us some stereo width, and that's just like sets up our little bending there, and this bend time is controlled over here. So I'll set it right about there, because that's what I did here in the original patch. And I'll turn on restart via gate. The basis of the sound is the groan 3. It doesn't have to be in your version, but it's kind of cool, so I went with it. Groan 3. Doesn't really sound that much different from the sine wave, saw wave at first, but put it on bend plus minus, and then I dropped it down to -12. And I brought the wavetable over here. Actually, I got that one. Right about there. Intensity right about there. And then I use the LFO to modulate those. And gives a little movement. Come over here. This is set up as does not restart, and I'm key tracking it in order to give you different variations depending on what pitch you're playing. This is brought up. Otherwise, it sounds like a combination thing. Okay, so let me move this around. So it kind of warbles a little bit differently at different pitches, which is cool when you bend it. So another thing you do is use this modulation oscillator, going down to the phase, set it up to your oscillator, whichever one it is, and I have this set it to the same octave. And then I actually have this arm set to a macro so that I can kind of play with it. No, I'll just do it the same. I have it over here. It's a nice sound already, so it gives a little more harmonics. I also have a different distortions, Sine Shaper. Yeah, actually that's it. Just a Sine Shaper. It doesn't really do much. It just makes it a little more full sounding. I also have 2 different filters that are set to different LFOs. So this one is, these are just non-synced LFOs, just to give it general movement, not to have it be like any particular rhythm. This was set to a band reject, which is really great on Reese basses. Once again, it's just set up to crossfade is set to the top so that it's just a plain sine wave. Played in the correct octave. And it's also not that loud. Which I'm going to bring it up a little louder so you guys can hear it better. It'll be very loud once we add all the distortion. Also had a scream filter. This was mapped to the 5th LFO, or 5th modulator. And just like that. Then we have some effects, the phaser, and I'm just going to copy my settings. The reason I set them the way I did is I just wanted a very subtle effect. I didn't want it to be too noticeable. I just wanted to add that extra grit, which phaser does and tend to add. So here's what it would sound like. So you can go pretty drastic with it if you want, and it still sounds pretty cool on this type of bass. But I'm just going to go subtle with it, why not? Also have the dimension expander turned on. These are just to make it sound even wider, even though we already have unison engaged, but this gives it a different type of width, almost like a more of the way a reverb works. Just adds some sort of depth to it that you can hear. I also have this EQ. I just boosted a tiny bit on the high shelf because, you know, everything sounds better when it's brighter, unless it's too bright. So I also have feedback engaged just a tiny bit because why not, right? And then what else we got here? That's pretty good. Let me see what that sounds like in comparison to this one. And it does sound a little better than the other one, huh? What do you know? Yeah, I'm not actually using these other oscillators, even though they have things moved around. That's just, you know, when I was going through my trial and error process to get this, I was messing around with those. I actually don't have the Sine Shaper engaged. That might be why. Yeah, so pretty much close enough though. So here we go. And the next thing I'm going to do is show you the effects chain that I have applied to these, which I will now turn on. You can hear the difference. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is a three-band frequency divider, which is a download I found on the interwebs, I believe on like Glitchhop forum or something, and I can put it in a link on my Dropbox so you guys can grab it. You can use it for any kind of effects to be applied on different frequencies of your sound, which is a pretty popular method for this type of bass. I used Camel Crusher, basically. If you just open all these up, and you can see there's mid-high, and I got Camel Crusher. I threw it on the mids, and it's set to tube warmth, which just adds a tiny bit of, actually quite a bit of fun harmonics. And I also have another one set on the high output, on the high band, and obviously, you know, if you're familiar with racks, you should be able to figure out where exactly to throw these things so that they apply. But if you're not, you can just go in here. You just open all these, double click on them to open, and you'll see that, you know, you can just, this says high output. You just put it inside of high output, and for mid output, you just put it inside the one labeled high mid output. So this one is set to American High Gain, which is like one of my favorite presets. It just distorts the crap out of it. But it's only applying to the very, very high frequencies, so it makes it sound nice. So, alright, I just wanted to talk about this frequency shifter here. It is only engaged some of the time in this in this pattern. So here it is again. You can see when it turns on. So I'm just doing that because yeah, I like having it on some of the time just to add more variation to how the modulation sounds, and it sounds really cool. So it's on right now. I'll just play a note. So it's almost like a phaser type of sound. But it sounds really cool, so especially when you modulate the fine like this. So what this is basically the default settings in the frequency shifter. Dry wet set to 50%, the chorus frequency set to 0, and then the fine frequency set to just a very small amount, and you can kind of move it around to hear rhythmically what it does. And you can also set it to wide mode. This gives you a really cool stereo effect. Yeah, so this is basically mapped to a macro. So the on-off is mapped to a macro, and that macro is modulated. And the actual position of this in the chain is it is on both the highs and the mids. So within this high, mid, and high crossover, actually it's outside of that. It's inside of the split to output. So the split to output rack, it's at the very end of that. The reason for that is that I didn't want it on the lows of the sound. So it's only affecting the mids and highs. And originally I had it just on the highs, and it wasn't really making much of a difference. So I put it on the mids and the highs, and now it's, yeah, it definitely sounds cool. My debut EP, I've Awoken, is out now. So check that out at www.nukage.net.